Actually, one of the few documents I read front to back. I think this is great, and the team that put this together, Mayor French, is...
Yeah, I mean, Councilman Sack, do you have some comments you want to add?
Sure, and Bill, just to your comment, I guess I see your point. I think, and I don't want to speak for the people who drafted this, but I think they want to have at least some component that's automated. I don't think it's precluding what you're suggesting, which is to have someone there at some point to collect money, unless I'm...
No. I'm just thinking that whenever I see the system, so whether you're in Stamford or Norwalk, whatever it may be, there's always personnel that's part of the system. Because the system is just not absolutely autonomous. It's not like an outdoor parking where you're plugging your space in and you're done. I think this could be a little bit more complicated.
I think we're saying the same thing.
I think we are.
But I would just say thank you to Dan Matheson and everyone that worked on this. And I think that, Bishop, you're right to focus everyone to page 8. I think that's the part that Dan really drafted. All the other boilerplate stuff, I would leave it to Mr. Noto and yourself to make sure that that's right before it goes out. And I guess the only other thing is to make sure that when we send out an RFP that we're not obligated to actually contract with somebody because we...
No, that wording is typically included in there. I mean, this is a request for a proposal. This is not a bid document.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, the Commission should be prepared to get a broad variety of responses.
And then once an RFP is put out there, how does that work? I mean, do you track down people to say, hey, here's an RFP, you might want to consider putting in a proposal, or do you post it on the website? How does it get advertised?
All of the above.
Okay.
To give you an example, you have various municipal bidding services that you can post it on.
And you'll do that?
There are various websites that you can post it on.
Great.
What we've had success at the town is we actually target by SIC code various vendors, and we will aggressively go out there and solicit them. We'll actually send them a letter with the bid notification, not necessarily the entire packet, but the bid notification, and say, hey, we think you might be interested in something like this. If you are, contact the town clerk. To give you an example, and I'll just give you this courtroom as an example, we have a freshening up of the courtroom starting December 1st. We sent out 88 notices of bid to contractors within roughly a 15-mile area radius, and we received 14 responses. So the wider you cast your net, the better chance you have of getting something. I think parking people that are in this end of the business are relatively few, and many of them are national in scope. And certainly regional in scope, so we'll be looking at all of that.
So I think Dan and his group have already identified that small universe of vendors that might be interested in this, and I guess someone will forward it directly to them. So
sure, and we would look to broaden that universe.
Yeah, great.
So we're not adopting the exact language tonight. We're just going to make a resolution to authorize staff to go out for an RFP.
Yes.
With this boiler template. Okay. Dan, was there anything you wanted to add? I didn't think you were going to be in town today. What happened? Everything good? Good.
Okay, so we'll, I guess I'll entertain a motion to draft and distribute the RFP, correct?
Finalize is a word I would probably use.
Okay.
All right, and distribute.
Finalize and distribute?
And that would be, again, I think, with Attorney Noto and myself.
Right.
We will be sure to send the document before we distribute it to the entire Commission for their final yay or nay. If somebody has an objection of a particular word or something, that would be the time, or forever hold your peace.
What's the time frame to get the RFP out?
I would think we could do this in a couple of weeks.
Great.
So we're not going to depend on another meeting. The progress is going forward.
No, you guys have given us direction, adequate direction.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion.
Perfect.
And I'll second it.
Very good.
Sorry. Okay. Commissioner Sack?
Yes.
Mayor Feinstein?
Yes.
Mayor French?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Villanova?
Absolutely yes.
Okay.
Wait, I want to change mine to absolutely as well.
This is it. This is progress. I mean,
absolutely.
I see a lot of new faces out here, some older faces, but if you go into the history of Rye Town Park, this is progress. This is what we need. This is what's going to be better for 2011, 2012. Well, thank you very much. But the most important thing, and that I also want to make mention here, is that Mayor French mentioned this last month, that about taking the politics out of the board and putting things in place like this, having set calendar dates, having the best operating procedure that we can. We leave that to the next board, okay, where it can't vary. So by setting policy and procedure, that's better for the future, and eliminates all those things. That's what's important. That we're leaving it better than what we found it.
Well said.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lawyer. Very good. Lisa, it's good to see you again.
Oh, you too. Made some adjustments.
Whoa.
Okay.
We put color.
Yes.
I like that.
So color into the operation. Here you go. You can pass those around.
Okay, thanks. This is great.
Okay, I understand for the people in the audience that this is something that you folks don't have copies of, but this is the first step. Now, what you saw just before this was like the second or third step as far as the RFP for the parking. This is the first look at a draft of an RFP that I did, primarily stealing as much as I could from Playland's RFP, getting ideas from it, recognizing that there are the legal boilerplate types of things that will have to be added into it. But we just wanted to get, even just the front cover sort of give a feeling of is this the way that the Rye Town Park Commission wants to go. We came up with the title Rye Town Park Administration Building, Preserving the Past by Partnering for the Future, which to me sort of puts it in a nutshell, is that we have this beautiful historic building that everybody loves and appreciates, and is the constant, people constantly ask me, what was this thing, or how did this happen? It's just like a real amazing building, but the fact is if we can't find a way to go forward and make this building useful, then I think there's no hope for preserving that building. So that's basically the issue that we're trying to address in the RFP. And there's an outline, but I think actually, Lisa knows a lot more about this than I do, so I think I'm just going to turn it over to her.
Thank you. So Bill and I, as you know, we volunteered to try and get this to the first step. So it is really a rough draft that we presented to you, and we really wanted your direction on where to take it. But the idea is, and it always has been, I pulled in some excerpts from the 2003 feasibility study to show that it's not just any use that can go in here. It needs to be something that's applicable to not only the context of Rye Town Park, but the community that surrounds it. So the uses suggested are just offered from a building code perspective and uses that already exist in the neighborhood. But that doesn't preclude other people from coming forth with creative ideas. I think Bill and I were both impressed with the Playland RFP. It was really well written, and it was encouraging for anyone to come forth with an entrepreneurial or creative idea that could reuse the site. And that's what we're looking for. Like you said, Commissioner Sack, you don't want to commit to something right away, but presenting more of a broad scope or spectrum might get something we never thought of or thought could work. And it's generating that dialogue. So for me, the most important thing is I don't want to adversely affect the historic nature of the building, the park, or the beach, and its intended use from its original design. And I certainly don't want to impact the community in terms of traffic and parking and all of those things I put in there as part of the upfront context that anybody looking at this needs to appreciate. A developer just can't come in here and put an addition on the building and move something in. It has to be well thought out for this specific site. So we wanted to just present it to you, get the Commission's feedback on it. I know it's presented to you tonight, so I don't expect much feedback tonight, but please feel free to email Bill and I with your input on it.
Bishop, could we get this on that work session?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the work session, and I think the other key piece of the RFP would have to be the approval process, and that wouldn't be your job, but I guess the commissioner staff would have to clearly articulate dates and vetting and how the approval is going to be done.
You're talking about the approval if we went to a public-private partnership here?
Yeah, if an RFP came in and how the decision process would work, so it's very clearly articulated out front so people know how.
Yeah. Bishop, we had a similar discussion with the town of Rye with regards to the Peace Garden. Mm-hmm. And very simply, we put it out there for the public to give their opinion, and ultimately the decision is of the board, and there's nothing that can happen that will make the board make a decision to approve one vendor. So there was no obligation. Yeah, there's zero obligation. So if these opportunities come in and they all don't sound good for the park and for the residents, then the answer is no. Then we move on. We do it again.
Yeah, just two other quick points. I think this is a really bare bones, as you can see, but item number 11, selection criteria, that would be all the various things as to what we would be looking for in terms of selecting a proposal. And then beyond that, as you say, you would put in all the various clauses that would clarify that just because we might select a proposal, that doesn't mean it's clearly not a contract or a bid or any of that stuff. The other thing that we put in as sort of at the very end was that you could do this in conjunction with an RFP or do it instead of an RFP. There was one of the organizations that I looked at with various sample RFPs for historic buildings was a place out in Utah where they decided to go the route of actually putting an RFP for realtors who specialize in commercial real estate who might actually find prospective customers. So maybe this is something that could be done, because I know you were talking about in the other one, finding, how do you find potential for people to propose things? Well, one way would be to get realtors to help you do that. You might have to pay them something, but then on the other hand, it might be you'd get a wider range. And I think Lisa mentioned to me that there are a variety of other sources. You were saying the New York contract order to announce. Well, maybe you can tell.
Commissioner Sack, you asked about the previous one, how you would announce it. For me, just as an architect, there's 2 state organizations that run websites and printed postings where they'll contact you. You do a search of what kind of RFP you're looking for work, and it gets automatically distributed to thousands of either contractors, vendors, engineers, etc. So that's, I think, one of the avenues we would definitely pursue for the parking and this, just to see how broad a spectrum you can get in the state of New York. One of the things that I was looking for, from the workshop, I think that's a great idea, is the parameters that we want to define for the RFP, because it gets a little murky. Parking is a big issue, which I list out there right away, but also appurtenances, like some of those walls that are in the master plan could be rehabilitated as part of the RFP proposal, that anyone who's looking at the building has to take on certain entities like the tunnels. All of those things are contiguous to the building technically, so they should all be bought by whatever redevelopment or reinvention possibility we're looking at. But the other opportunity, being that it's historic, if you get a for-profit entity interested, they could get a historic preservation tax credit toward their restoration dollars or construction dollars. So there's a nice benefit for grants for not-for-profits or tax credit for a for-profit entity that would have to honor the integrity of the site. So we're kind of protected either way. There's a benefit for both audiences.
Yeah, thank you. Any question on that?
Well, yeah, the City of Rye has the local waterfront revitalization program, part of the zoning, so I'd like to just get educated on how does that impact this property? I would imagine it would. Okay. So it's got primary uses that are acceptable and all of that, okay.
Okay. Anything else on the administration building? Very good. Then I will go to old business. Anything under old business?
Well, I mean, we have talked about the City of Rye looking at shared services, so I have a brief resolution I'd like to throw out and get some feedback on it.
Very good, yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about is the City of Rye looking at opportunities, whether it's police or garbage or park, maybe not park maintenance, but since it is in the jurisdiction of the City of Rye, and I think before we get the staff, City of Rye to really do an analysis. I think they would like to, and we would like to just have to see